Hey, what's up, guys? It's Clint Coons here. And in this video, what I thought I'd bring to you is someone who is an expert in their niche of the market when it comes to helping real estate investors really to put together processes. Listen, as a business owner, I've been running Anderson Business Advisors now for going on 22 years and starting it as a small firm and growing it up to where we have over 500 employees. I can tell you how important it is that when you're scaling, that you have systems and processes in place to help you do more. Because let's just face it, you're juggling 5 or 6, sometimes 7 different programs. You're always going on to the next one. You think, hey, that's going to help me get it over the edge here. I'm going to be able to get more deals done. And then you're trying to put all that data together and aggregate it. It can become a mess. Well, the individual that I'm going to be speaking with today on this video has actually figured out a way to bring everything together onto one platform that makes it so simple, because that's just it, right? High value versus low value work. Where should you be spending your time? On finding deals, closing on real estate, getting tenants into those properties, or maybe you're flipping. You don't want to be spending a ton of time trying to figure out different software solutions, different programs that are going to work for you. So Sharad Mehta from REsimpli has figured this out, and it's my pleasure to bring him on. Sharad, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good, Clint. Thank you for having me on the call, man. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's what's great is when I start talking about softwares, immediately people think, all right, we're just going to geek out here. This is a software developer. That's what he does. Does he understand real estate? You and I were talking before we got started here. Why don't you just share with the audience, your background in real estate and then how that evolved into creating the software?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to clear things up, I'm not a software developer. A lot of people get surprised by that, but I'm actually used to be an accountant and then left my job to start flipping houses full time. I live in Toronto, Canada, right outside of Toronto, Canada, in Oakville, Ontario. I started investing when I was living in Chicago. I started investing in Northwest Indiana, right outside of Chicago, about 30 to 45 minutes outside of downtown Chicago, buying single-family houses, primarily as rental properties. So I own about 50 rental properties. And then from there, I started flipping houses to need some cash to buy more rental properties. And then in 2015, I ended up moving. I was living in downtown Chicago until 2015, ended up moving to San Diego and still had this house flipping business where we were doing about 40, 50 houses a year. And that's when I started looking at like a software that I could use to manage my entire business. We were doing marketing, we were doing, different things. We were doing projects, flipping houses, working with contractors. And then coming from an accounting background, I needed something that I can track my data. So I started looking for something where I could just have everybody on my team be on the same platform. So I didn't find anything. So I thought, I'll just create something simple for myself that very specific to my business need, but I could just run my business, and it just kind of grew into what it is now. And we work with investors from all over the country now. And I'm still actively flipping. I do about 20, 25 deals a year in Northwest Indiana market. Most of my time I'm busy on REsimpli, product ideas and stuff.
Okay, so with this program, and we're going to get into the details on this of using it and what it can do for someone. But I heard you say, you flip real estate, as do I. But how about if you're not a flipper? I mean, should they continue watching this right now? If I'm just a landlord, is this going to help me out as well?
If anybody that's looking to buy any properties off market, we build a system for that. If you are buying something that's already rented out, you just need something to manage your software, then it's not necessarily for that audience, even though we have some people that are doing property management using our platform, but it's built primarily for people that are doing some marketing to motivate sellers to buy off-market properties. That's majority of what we do. What an investor does with their property towards the end, once they close on the property, whether they flip it, whether they rent it or do something else, that we have investors doing all sorts of different things. But one thing that's common in all the investors that are using our platform is they're doing some sort of marketing for lead generation.
And that's really just it, because a lot of individuals wonder, where do I find the deals? Where are people getting these off-market deals? And they, you watch someone, they says, well, you need to be marketing, you need to be dropping yellow letters or the mail or email or text messaging. And so That's great. You can go drop a ton of money on different people's ideas and programs and strategies and solutions to market these deals. But what's key, and I figured this out, just in my own business, it's not enough to send it out. You also got to track how effective it is. Otherwise, you're just wasting money if you don't know.
Absolutely.
And that really goes into your program, what you've created with this solution. So maybe if you could just break down for us some of the components and what it's going to do, how it helps a real estate investor find deals and actually close on more deals.
Absolutely. So the way I look at a successful real estate investing business is in these four pillars. You have the data side, which is buying your list of motivated sellers. You could buy the list from, you could get the list from your county, or you could, use a public source. We have driving for dollar built in. So as you driving around a neighborhood, you can add properties. So that's the data side of it. And then we have list stacking, how you would have all these different marketing lists, how you would stack that in your platform. So it starts with that. So once you have the data part figured out, then the next pillar for us is the marketing. That's if you have the list, whether you do direct mail to them, whether you cold call them, or you're doing SEO or PPC. So we have websites built in, we have dialer, you can do direct mail. So that's the marketing piece of it, reaching out to motivated sellers or having these motivated sellers reach out to you through inbound marketing, SEO, PPC or whatnot. So that's the marketing piece. Then the next pillar for us is the sales, which is converting the leads, the people that have called in leads to deals, which would be through your CRM, managing your lead management software, putting them on automated follow-up, calling them, texting them. So that's the sales side of it. That's built in REsimpli. And after that, it's the operation side of it, which would be, let's say you close on a property. Now you want to sell that property. So you're emailing your buyers, you're texting your buyers, you're managing your vendors. For example, if you're flipping the house, you want to create a scope of work, you want to add your title company, and we even have the bookkeeping piece built in within the system. I used to be an accountant, so we built our own bookkeeping system for you to not even need QuickBooks within the platform. So that would be the operation side of it. So we manage all four areas of the real estate investing, from data, marketing, sales, and operations.
All right, now it sounds confusing, I think, for people. So if we could just break this down. So I have, I buy this list of leads, all right, and I have all their information. I then download it into the system. So I put it into your system. Now I want to start targeting these individuals. So let's just talk about how it works from a targeting standpoint. How do I reach out to them?
So you can have a list of those people. You could start cold calling them. So you could start just have a phone system within REsimpli, just start dialing from within the platform, right? So you're talking to these people, you could add like 300, 400, 500 people, however many people you want to call per day, and just calling them and saying, hey, I found your information from public sources. Would you be interested in selling your property? So that would be the one way. The other would be you have the same list, sending direct mail to them, which is what we do a lot of, other investors do a lot of. You have your list, you just click, select the direct mail piece you want to send out and just send direct mail to those investors. And then once your letter goes out or your postcard goes out, your yellow letter, postcard, and then you would start getting call back from those people that you would manage through the lead part of it. And then the other way you can reach out these people, the list of investors is through websites that we have built in. So you could have a website that's geared towards motivated sellers, and you could optimize it for SEO. You could use it for PPC purposes or Bing ads, and then get leads from those websites funneled right into your system. So that would be the marketing side of it, and then get leads from these different marketing channels into your system.
All right, so let's say that I'm doing the phone calls out of the system. Does it automatically then log in, hey, you contacted this individual, and you could just put in, hey, did not answer.
Exactly.
It does that?
Exactly. Yep. And
Okay.
it would record the call, and then you can manage what the call result was. So if you left a voicemail, if the person said, hey, take me off the list, it would mark it as do not call again. So you're not calling the same person again that you've already called, and that person, the seller, requested to be taken off the marketing list. So you can manage that also.
Follow up, things like that, right?
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So if somebody says, hey, I'm busy right now, call me back in a week, then you can set up a call, to call them back in a week.
Now, can I run reports against that? So let's say I reached out. So this week I'm just going to start dialing, and I dial 150 people. And
Right.
then can I run a report to figure out, break all those down, who wants to get called back when and what the response
Exactly.
rate was?
Yep, you can exactly do that. And if somebody's interested, you can even put them on an automated follow-up sequence. So what would happen a number of times is you call a seller and they say, hey, I'm not interested right now. Maybe call me back in 6 months or a year, right? Now, you don't necessarily want to wait 6 months to call back. You just want to stay on their radar. Sometimes people say, I'm going to be ready in 6 months' time, but they actually might have, they might be living in a state that, for example, gets a lot of snow. And there's a big snowstorm, and all of a sudden, their furnace goes out and their motivation level goes up. So what you could do with that kind of a lead is you could push them, you can manage them as a lead and put them on an automated follow-up sequence. So what that automated follow-up sequence would do is you could set it up where it would just send that seller a text message once a month or however often you want to set it up. It would just say, hey, Mr. Seller, this is Sharad. We talked about a property at 123 Main Street. Just checking to see everything is going okay. I know you said you want to sell your property in, July or August, whatever the time frame is. But just, if you need anything, let me know. And then it would, if you want, it would also set up a reminder for your team member to call just to follow up. That's where we notice some of the most successful real estate investors are making their money from follow-up. Like just last week on Friday, we signed a contract with a seller that we had in our pipeline for 302 days. They called us from our postcard, but they weren't interested in selling at that point. And I noticed that we had done 23 follow-ups with them, 16 calls and 7 text messages, just calling them and texting them. It wasn't, hey, do you want to sell now? Do you want to sell now? It was just about, hey, just wanted to reach out and see, if you're still interested or not. It's not hard selling, but just mainly staying on their radar. That's where we see a lot of investors that are using our platform doing 20, 25, 30 deals a month, having the most success is through the follow-up sequences.
So you can build all those follow-up sequences into the program.
Correct.
So it does it automatically.
Exactly.
Mailing the whole deal.
Exactly. You can do that. And there's some like 7 or 8 sequences that are built out of the gate. So you log in, they're already built out. These are the ones that I use in my business. You can customize, you can add additional one based on different situation, but there's like 7 or 8 out of the gate that covers most of the situations that you have. And then you can go and just put it on any lead, and they would just start getting those automated messages from your team or from your system.
Well, I mean, so you've used this word now twice. You've said team, assistant. So that tells me you're probably using an assistant as well to help you out in your business?
I am. So my team is, so we do about 20, 25 deals a year. This year we'll probably do more. We've already closed turn 2 and we have 8 under contract, 6 multi-units, 2 units, 3 units, and 2 single family houses. But so I have my lead manager based in Philippines. She is managing the initial prospecting / the lead management stage of it. And then once somebody is interested, ready to make an offer, then I have an acquisition manager based in Indiana who's actually going out on appointments. And once we close on a property, then I have my project manager. She is based in California, managing our project from California of all the projects we're doing in Indiana. And everybody on our team is on REsimpli. So, I mean, outside of that, I also have my bookkeeper and accountant in the system using like updating the financial side of it. But the main real estate team is my lead manager in Philippines, project manager in California, and then my acquisition manager in Indiana. So lead manager and project manager are salary plus commission. The acquisition manager is strictly commission only.
Got it. All right. So you got this system set up. So you're doing your marketing. Then you said the sales side. So what does that look like? So if I start getting the responses, and how does that help me close on the deals?
Yeah, so the sales side would be, most of the calls you would initially get is, let's say I'm going to use direct mail as an example. Let's say you send out 1,000 direct mail pieces. Maybe you'll get 20, 30 calls out of those 1,000 pieces. Most of the people, will say, hey, I'm not interested, take me off the list. Or some people will say, I'm just calling to find out what's your offer. You'll get odd call here and there. Like we have 2 properties we under contract from our direct mail that we did in the month of January, where they said, hey, I'm interested, I'm ready to sell my property. How much can you offer? So you'll get some odd calls where your postcard just happens to reach them at the right time, they're at the right, pain point, and they're just ready to sell their property. So that would happen, but majority of the time, people would say, I just want to see what you have to offer, what do you do? And they're not really hot leads, but they're like kind of interested, cold lead, warm lead. So those are the ones you're managing through your sales process. So that's where you would use an automated follow-up sequence. Somebody says, I just want to see what your offer is. You make them an offer. They say, no, I'm not looking to, like, say if the house is worth 200,000, and they say, I'm looking for an offer of 180. So for you as an investor, that might not work at that point. But, for example, you might be willing to pay, let's say, 150 for that house. So just because somebody's asking 180 and you can only offer 150, you don't want to just, necessarily mark that as a dead lead. You just want to stay on their radar. You don't know, they want 180 right now, but you don't know, maybe, their roof starts leaking, or maybe they're going through some other financial difficulty. Maybe they're not able to pay their property tax, the mortgage, or the furnace breaks down. So you want to make sure you're following up with them. So that's the sales process that you're managing them through. Just basically like following up with them. That's the heart and soul of the real estate investing business. I would say it's like managing. It's easy to get leads, but the challenge is managing those leads and staying on top of those leads through different marketing channels that you're getting. You want to make sure if someone says, all right, call me back in 2 weeks, how do you know for sure that there is actually a call scheduled in your system to call them back in 2 weeks and somebody's actually calling them back? So that's what our system would do, is help you manage the sales process. It's basically a CRM side of the business.
Yeah, so how about once you say you buy the property and you decide to treat it as a rental, as you stated, you've got quite a few rentals there, and
right.
You put a tenant in there. Does this help on that side as well in working with the tenants on the properties?
Right. Yes, you could manage a tenant. So if you are managing your own properties, that you could manage it's not a property management software, but we have other investors that are, managing their properties and tenants through their platforms. You can call your tenant, you can text your tenants, you can send them a letter, you can send them reminder calls or text messages. So you can do that. You can manage the entire financial side of your rental business through the platform. So you could do that. You could add the tenant as a vendor for that property. So anytime the tenant pays rent, you would know within the property, how much rent that tenant has paid and how that property is doing financially. And you can run different reports for that.
Got it. So I'm just curious, right now in this market, any tips or that you'd want to tell people about, using your system, or just in general that they should be looking at? Because I'm curious about, where investors think that the market is going and what strategies they feel are more applicable right now.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would say, that's a great question. One thing I would say is what we've noticed. One thing that's common between all successful real estate investors is they're consistently doing marketing. If somebody's just getting started out, and then let's say they pull a list of 1,000 people, they're going to send direct mail to those 1,000 people. And if their hope is, if they're relying on getting that deal from that one single batch of 1,000 letters or postcards that they're sending out, if their business is built on that, just sending that one list, 1,000 letters one time, then that's not what you want to do. If somebody's starting out in this business and at least they're not committing to doing consistent marketing for 6 months, then I would say don't even get started. It's not, there's very, very high likelihood that you're going to fail. So you may get lucky, 1 or 2% of the people will get lucky, where you just happen to, your postcard or letter just happens to get to the person at the right time, at the right place. But most of the times, 95%, 98% of the people will just fail at that. So when people ask us, hey, what's the best marketing channel? Our answer is always the one that you can stick with the longest. It doesn't matter what it is, the one that you can stick with the longest, whether it's cold calling, whether it's texting people, whether it's sending direct mail, whether it's doing PPC, the one you can stick with the longest is the one that's going to work. Every single marketing channel works if you stick with it long enough. Most of the time people fail because they give up too soon.
Well, should you split test at all? Let's say, test direct mail versus phone calling and stick with that? Or
Absolutely.
do you think it's better just to choose?
Yeah, I mean, somebody who's starting out, I would say just stick with one that they feel most comfortable with. Like, for example, if I was starting out, right? When I started out with direct mail. That's the one that I felt most comfortable with. I didn't feel comfortable let's say cold calling someone. That's just based on my personal, comfort level, honestly,
Yep.
more than anything. I just felt comfortable sending letter, postcard. It's more expensive than cold calling. Most of the people prefer cold calling just because they feel more comfortable getting people on the phone. So, but it's about whatever people feel comfortable with given their budget, given their own comfort level. That's the one they should start with. I would start out with one that they feel comfortable with. And once they feel like, okay, they're starting to see some traction from that marketing channel, then stack another one on top of it. I think once people start doing too many things at the beginning and they don't have a good handle of a marketing channel that they feel super comfortable with, then they end up getting overwhelmed and then they just end up doing nothing really well. Then they're doing everything, at an average level. But I would say, like, if they're doing direct mail, cold calling, whatever they might be doing, just go deep into it, feel comfortable, figure out what's working, what's not working, and then just stack the next marketing channel on top of that.
Yeah, what I really like about what you've created here is that sometimes people don't realize it. You make an investment, you buy these leads, right? And as you stated, you send out one letter, you get a poor response, you're like, all right, I'm done. And they think, oh, I just need to keep buying more, and I need to buying more, and eventually it's going to hit. And so they fall into this trap thinking that, well, that next batch, those leads were bad, I just got to buy another batch. And they don't see the success that they had expected.
Right.
Which what you stated, and I've learned this in my own business and building Anderson to where it is, you got to be consistent and you got to develop processes around this. So
Right.
You're going back to those people, you keep doing it. And so what does that look like? If you don't have the systems in place, like what you've created for someone to allow that to become automatic and remind you and build that in, it becomes difficult.
Absolutely. I'll put it in another context, like in a different industry. Let's say if you're getting a postcard from a local Toyota dealership, right? Once a quarter, they send you a postcard, right? You're not in the market to buy a car, but they've run some marketing list which tells them that you are going to be in a market to buy a car, right? That's kind of what we're doing as real estate investors. So now imagine in a different industry, they're sending you a postcard once a quarter. Hey, we have this, New Year sale going on. Then they send you another one in Q2, Memorial Day sale, Q3, whatever, Labor Day, end of year sale. Again, you're not in a market to buy a car, but every quarter they're sending you a postcard, right? You look at it, you just throw it out, but just they're planting a seed in your brain that, hey, there's somebody out there, there's this Toyota dealership out. That's all they're doing. Now imagine after getting 4, 5 postcards, your car breaks down, right? You just happen to be in the market to buy a car. You're looking at Toyota, Honda, and a similar brand. There's a very, very high likelihood that you're going to call that Toyota dealership that's just been consistently sending you a postcard. That's all you're doing with marketing. You're just planting a seed. You're not expecting these people to receive your postcard, receive your call, text message, and then to be ready to sell the house immediately. You're just expecting these people you're just expecting to stay on their radar. So whenever their situation changes and they are in the market to sell their house, all you're hoping at that point is that you get a fair chance, you get the first opportunity to go and look at that house. That's all marketing does. And after that, that's all job of marketing. After that comes in your sales part of it, right? You could have the best marketing and then you get these people to call you back and you're absolutely unprofessional. You're absolutely rude on the phone. Then no amount of marketing is going to help you on that. So it all stacks on top of each other. Again, it starts with the data, right? So if I pull a list of people that just bought their house in the last 6 months, no matter how awesome your marketing piece is, it's not going to do anything because they just bought their house. They have no motivation to sell their house. So you start with the right set of data, then you reach out to them, consistently. When the situation changes, you just hope that they give you a call. You're the first one on their list to get a call from, and then you're professional, courteous to these people, and then just take it from there. Now, but that's the purpose of marketing, just to stay on these people's radar. Whenever situation changes, that they give you a call.
Do you have any recommendations for people on where to aggregate their data from that you would suggest they use?
I would say, there are a bunch of public sources. You could get it from PropStream. Driving for Dollar is pretty good source. As you're driving around, you see the houses that are not in the best of condition. So you can literally add them because based on the condition that they're in right now. But I would say the harder it is to get a list, the better that list is going to be. If everybody can log into public source, get their list, then thousands of people are getting the list. But not everybody is doing driving for dollars because that takes more effort. Not everybody is going down to the county office and getting the probate list. So I would start out with the free sources of going down to your county office and getting lists of people that are going through pre-foreclosure, for example, that are going through probate, that are going through divorce. So start with that list, and then that's a free list. Start out with that. Then pick a marketing channel, whichever one you feel most comfortable with. Doesn't matter, every single marketing channel works, and then just be consistent with it. At least give it, based on your budget and time, at least give any marketing channel 6 months to kind of see if it's working or not before you give up on it. And then once you start getting leads, and then just be courteous and professional. Just, if you lean in with the mindset of you want to help these people, you would be successful. If you start out with being greedy, I want to get this deal, I want to get the people, the homeowners will pick up on that. They will pick up on that vibe. You want to just lean in with, hey, I want to help you out. How can I help you out? And then you will start out with value add that you're going to help these people sell their house without having them list their house, without having people walk through their house, without anybody in the neighborhood knowing kind of what situation they're going through. So that's the value add we're doing as real estate investors, and that's what we want to communicate to a homeowner.
So if I'm watching this right now and I'm thinking, all right, I want to get started in real estate, question that's going to come to mind. How much time is it going to take to get familiar with your system, to get up to speed and to use it? And then what's that investment going to be like, over the next 6 months to really delve in and start using it? What would somebody expect?
So in terms of time commitment, so there's a couple of things, right? You can trade money for time. So let's say if you're just starting out, it's just you. In terms of time commitment, I would say at least, it depends on marketing channel. If you're doing direct mail, your money investment is going to be higher because it's more expensive to send direct mail versus cold calling, but cold calling is going to require more of your time. So you have to balance that. But let's say somebody's starting out, initially when somebody starts out, they have more cash available, they have more time available than cash. So I would say, let's say if they commit to doing cold calling, I would say at least commit to doing maybe 100 to 150 calls a day. To a list of, I would say just start out with a very basic list of absentee homeowners with 30% more equity, and they've owned their house for 5 years. That's a very basic list. We just got 2 deals from it, and it works. It works if you are consistent with them. So start out with their list, from that list, call 100 to 150 people every single day, nonstop, Monday to Friday. If you want to call Saturday, Sunday, do that. But take a couple of hours, call those 100 to 150 people, and then just get comfortable with, what is the homeowner saying, right? So that would be your time commitment, 2 to 3 hours a day, some extra time on the weekend. And then as far as the cost is concerned, it would cost somebody, I'd say, depending on where they buy their list from. If they get it from, from their county, then it's not going to cost them anything. It would just be, their time to get the list, and then they would have to get phone numbers. So that would be, 10 to 15 cents to get phone number for each record. But after that, I would say less than $1,000 for 6 months to just reach out to these list of people that they have.
Yeah, I mean, when you're thinking about that, a couple hours a day, less than $1,000 over 6 months, maybe even if it's $2,000.
Right.
One deal is all it's going to take. That's
100%.
it.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you're off the race.
We just sent out lists to 2,500 people, direct mail. Cost us about $1,000. We got 2 deals out of it. One deal from that list is going to make us about $45,000. Just that one deal. So it's going to pay for a direct mail for next 10, 12 sets of mailing that we're doing. But we only got it because we were consistent with mailing.
Well, what percent of your budget then do you put back into marketing?
So we, in our market, like for us in Lake County, Indiana market that we're in, so we have a set list of people that we mail to. So we're consistently mailing to those people, nonstop. Every other month we're mailing to that list. But once we feel like, okay, direct mail is working pretty good for us, So this week, we're adding cold calling to our list, right? So same list, we're reaching out through direct mail. Now we're going to start cold calling to that list. But we're doing other investing also. We're doing PPC. We're doing paper leads. So that gets a little bit more advanced. It gets a little bit more expensive. But again, all marketing channel works. But for a newer investor starting out, I would say either cold calling or direct mail. Just start out with that and just be consistent. For somebody, if you're willing to commit like $1,000 to $2,000 over 6 months, so let's say about $200-300 a month over 6 months, about $1,500 to $2,000, including the list that you're buying, getting all the phone numbers. Commit to that $2,000 and then just have 2 to 3 hours a day, every single day, calling these people. There's a very, very high likelihood, if you're consistent, that you will get a deal out of that.
Yeah. So what I was wondering is, let's say that you get a deal and you flip it and you make $12,000 on that property.
Right.
Now, of that $12,000, how much of that should I then roll into, take some off the table for profit? How much do I roll into marketing? Would you recommend when you're first starting up? Do you take, 40% of it, 50% of it, and really juice it up, or
I see. Yes. So we follow profit first in our business. So we follow like a combination profit first, simple numbers. So we take like 15% towards profit set aside, take 15% towards owner's salary, right? And then 15% towards taxes, and then 55% for operating expenses. That includes payroll and marketing. But in this, just to keep it like very simple, I would say if somebody got a list from, let's say, cold calling to that absentee list, so they've validated that list works, cold calling works. So if they have the budget, then what I would do is I would hire someone to call that list. Instead of calling 100 to 150 people, I would hire someone who's full-time calling these people. So I would start with that. The marketing channel that's already working, make sure you double down on that. I think that's another thing we notice. Sometimes people, they notice that, okay, I got this deal from cold calling, then they jump onto the next marketing channel without really going deep into the marketing channel that worked for them. So in this case, if somebody was successful and then they had the means, then I would go ahead and hire someone full-time to call the same list full-time, Monday to Friday, 8 hours a day. I would start with that. And then if they have more budget available, then I would look at the next marketing channel. It could be direct mail, it could be PPC, it could be radio ads, TV ads, depending on what their budget is. But at least I would not leave the marketing channel that's working for me. Then I would figure out, okay, how can I double down on that? And then if that list worked cold calling, then you could maybe look at the next town over, next county over, pull the same list and do the same process of calling those people.
I hope the people are understanding that are watching this, what you just said, because that is so fundamental to business, all right? You find something and you got to commit to it. It's not just a month, doesn't work, and I'm out. You got to 6 months and say, I'm going to be committed to this. You got to put in the effort, right? And then once you find success, then what you need to do is replace yourself. And you've said this again, and I've mentioned it. You talked about hiring someone. You can get a virtual assistant, bring someone in to start doing the stuff that you were doing or expanding it. So now you have 2 people doing it. You work 2 hours, they're working 6. And you said you're using the Philippines, and so we know that's going to be less expensive for you. And that's how you're going to start getting momentum with your business. And don't become a raccoon, right? Which is, I'm going to go after this next shiny object because I made it here. I can make it even more over here until you nail this down. That's so important.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would much rather go deeper into one marketing channel than go very, very light and broad on like 10 different marketing channels. I mean, it's like losing weight, right? I mean, if I commit to losing weight, it's not going to happen overnight. I'm not going to have, salad for lunch and then expect 6 packs. That's not just going to happen. I have to commit to it for 6 months. And then even after I've done that, I can't go back to eating junk food. I still have to at least maintain at a certain level. That's what you're doing with marketing also. You have to commit to it for 6 months. I mean, honestly, that's where we see, for me as an experienced investor, that's what I see my biggest advantage is, that I'm going to be consistent. I'm not going to be the fastest. I'm not going to have the biggest budget, but at least the budget that I have, I'm going to be 100% consistent day in, day out with the processes that I have because I know they work. Same thing with losing weight. If you're consistently running for a couple of miles, a day, and then eating healthy food, it's just a matter of time. You're going to see results. There's no other way, but you're going to see results. But if you're eating junk food, every other day, you're working out once or twice a week, then nothing is going to, then you might as well just enjoy your life, and not even bother to eat salads for lunch or anything. Right.
And so I think you're saying is that people are watching, so they're thinking about using your system. Hey, you got to commit. If you're not willing to commit, to put in the time and the effort, then something like what you have, it's not for them. Just don't even bother because you're just going to waste your money, the investment you make to get that system up because it's not going to benefit you unless you make that commitment.
Right, exactly.
Great.
I mean, the system is not going to do the work. You have to do the work. Our system just automates a lot of things. It systemizes a lot of things, but no system is going to just automatically get you deals in front of you. Like you have to put in the effort. So if you're not ready for that, if you're not ready to commit to the money or the time part of it, then just take a break. Maybe it's not the right time for you. Maybe you wait like a couple of months until you feel like you're in the right situation to commit, 6 months of time and money commitment, and then just go from there.
Great.
Right.
Well, hey, anything you want to leave in passing?
No, I mean, if they have any questions on anything that didn't get covered here, they can definitely check us out at REsimpli.com, or they can send us an email at support@REsimpli.com, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions they have.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, check out the website. I've been through the website. There's a lot of great testimonials on there, and it's just a really clean site, and it gives you answers basically all the questions you have about what this program can do for you. So definitely, I'll have a link below. Click on that link, go to his site, check it out.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Clint, for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man.